then there were other fairies, people involved with the fairy scene, so we were involved with the fairy scene, but then simultaneously, gradually also involved with psyche, because it was fairy scene, one's own experience. And one can begin to see that what Harry was showing was not just his own resistance, it's general mass of resistance everywhere. And so it's only been very slowly. And in fact, I'm putting together a book now called Lavender Self-Awakening, whose middle part documents what are called, what Chris calls the FDR Wars. FDR was called, the Fairy Dish Rack was a local publication of the local community of fairies in the later 80s and 90s. And this became of greater interest to individual fairies to become more psychologically minded and set off a civil war amongst the fairy community, because the majority of people, fairies who controlled the local fairy scene and the fairy organizing group didn't want it to be psychologically minded, because that would threaten their arrangement of the power situation there. And so we had the Civil War, and I've been having to write about that. So that helped further congeal a kind of community that's already, with further associates like Roger, I think you were associated in, and Doug Sedarnik, he's probably here somewhere. There's also at this time. So, and other people have serious interest in this at that time. Earlier, I couldn't see how there could be, so to speak, community on this understanding that could be not emergent. I had to practice, say, working in Treeroots, having this organization Treeroots, and operating it with associates who were like mine, and then working that so that the operating of that was also simultaneously the operating of people's psychologies honestly. And a business meeting became opportunities in which people could be psychologically real. And how to be like that, how to run like that, when it could operate like that effectively for enough years. The small core group, then that could eventually expand outward, eventually give birth to an institute, and then that give birth to a training program and things like this club. That maybe explains that. It's been very slow, and that's why in my opinion it's a very modest group. And this gets shunned, I'm demonized. And as much as we want to still remember these things, or otherwise just forget about the whole thing, have a good time as much as that's possible. So, thanks for the question, David. Okay, well, maybe we could squeeze in one more if it's not a really long, complicated question.
Yeah, my name is Michael. Maybe it's complicated, but when you were reading from the essay, Mitch,
yes.
I was struck by the image of the Rainbow Bridge,
yes.
And that felt to me like it was a journey outward, not so much inward.
No, picture the bridge
is there a contradiction
there?
there?
Yeah, picture the bridges in you. Anything, it could be like a metaphor that says Rainbow Bridge in the sense of a metaphor. The metaphor is of something that bridges something. Why cannot that be inside? Why do you think that the phrase Rainbow Bridge means something outside? That's your bias. That's what I'm talking about. To uncover these biases and learn to be real with them ongoingly is hard to do. Towards a goal, which is to be more authentic in one's self-being. All the words I use have been very seriously tested and explored and worked on me personally. I'm not just flat Dougal. It looks like that. But thank you for your question. So, okay, I guess that answers that. Okay, well, I'm going to squeeze in one more. Anyone else have a question or comment or reaction or something? Last chances, yes.
What drew you
What name, please?
Brian.
Brian.
What drew you to the Gay Men's Collective as opposed to like the effeminate groups or any other groups? Why did you go to the Gay Men's Collective?
The Gay Men's Collective are the only gay group that existed at that time in Berkeley. There was
Oh, okay.
no
I thought you
other
mentioned
gay
some other
group.
ones. Like,
The feminists were not active at that time. They had been one of the aspects of the earlier gay environment in the Berkeley, North Oakland area. But by the time of the Gay Men's Collective, which started in 1972, I think, there was nothing else. It all flamed out. And that's because people didn't show interest. So I remember once, it was about a year and a half or so into my being a member of the Gay Men's Collective, We had a meeting in a park in Berkeley for a regular weekly meeting. And I remember while we were having our meeting, one of the members of our collective, we had about 15 people in our collective, had told someone else about that meeting in that park. And we were visited by a renewed or resurgent group of e-feminists who cajoled us and told us that we were wrong to be understanding being gay and working with an organizational way that we were doing. Because we had to do further renouncing of maleness than what we were doing. It was really interesting. I had several other odd, unusual interactions with feminist persons. But that's an example of that right way. But I certainly felt when I encountered them that they were men who were very manly, and they were in big denial about it, and enormous complexes. Probably were not a realistic alternative at the time of China. Just to answer your question. There are many historical questions of this nature, because I'm referring to areas of time and place that are historically very juicy. Lots of things are going on, lots of things are being invented or innovated or experimented with, all things that are now either in place or they've been forgotten. But it's great and an honor to have had a little chance to share a little bit. And I want to thank you all for your patience. We have to wrap things up because, as I told you before, we don't like this. If we go past 9:30, I think we're awful monsters because it makes the work work. So we got to make sure we wrap things up. I thank you for your time so that I could share a little with you and with the camera about what things are back then and how things have moved along and some of the business about that. And next month, as you may have noticed from the flyer, we'll be switching gears. I'll still be the one out here, but we'll be switching gears, so I'm going to be sharing with you a version of the story of Gilgamesh and Enkidu that Mark Thompson and I put together in the early 90s for a book which we did not publish. So we did not publish this book, but the retelling of the story was to be kind of the middle part of this book. He was going to write, you did write a long introduction, and I wrote then this paper about a Jungian analysis of Gilgamesh, which is in the readings of the trainees for the advanced training program. And that's why I decided to give a couple of meetings on that topic. So next month I will share and read out loud, as it was traditionally designed, the story itself in that version. And then the following month we'll go into some more of the Jungian analysis of that. So okay, that's about it for tonight. Thank you very much. I'm going to turn it over to Roger again for a final concluding word before we end. But I thank you for your patience. Thank you.
All right, everybody. So Mitch told you about the event, which will be March 3rd, and you all have flyers, hopefully. And so if you can turn in your evaluations, if you fill those out to the front desk. And we do need to empty the space, and unfortunately we do need to, if anyone can stay and help us put the tables back up. But if you want to continue the conversation out in the front courtyard, that's cool, and see you all next month.